My name is Michael Toole, and I want to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, February 16th Select Board meeting. I'm the Vice Chair. Let the record show that myself, Meg Arts, and Renee Deli are here. Jack Conway had told us that he'll be joining us a little bit later, and I'm sure Christine will be joining us as well. That being said, I want to open up the floor. I see a lot of guests here and want to open up the floor and to the public comment period. Please, if you have a public comment, raise your hand. I see one hand raised. And Peter.
That's right. Hi, everybody. And I heard that Mansfield just had their in-person meeting, which I listened online, and pretty soon Norton will be doing the same. And also, pandemic is on its way out, and it's looking good.
That's great. I agree, Peter. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Are there any other comments during the public comment period? Seeing no other hands raised, move on to the minutes. And February 2nd and February 2nd executive session. Meg and Renee, have either of you had a chance to review those?
Michael, I'm sorry, I have not.
Yeah, Christine will be joining us in a minute. So, Meg, are you okay if we move forward with without approving the minutes, or would you?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was actually down in, I think these are the same ones. I think I saw them in the folder today and signed them.
Okay.
If it's the same date, but I read through them. They were, again, I wasn't on the meeting, so.
Yeah. That's all right. Let's, something I feel uncomfortable approving them where one member hasn't read them, nor do I think we could get there. So let's move forward on that. Appointments and resignations, seeing none. Let's move right into licenses and permits and move to a vote to approve the transfer of a common vic license from KMPZ Inc. doing business as Honeydew Donuts to Honeydew Operations Inc. doing business as Honeydew Donuts to be utilized at 61 West Main Street, Norton, Mass. 02766. Mr. Town Manager, could you give us a little bit of color on this? Because it sounds very from one person to another with the same name.
Yes. Interruption. I am now here.
Thank you. I let the record show 7:05 that Christine DeVoe is now present. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, so this operation has been run by Kevin Quirk for a number of years, and he is no longer going to be running the store. And, I want to thank him for all the years that he's worked here in Norton. Kevin has been great. And now this will be transferred to Honeydew Operations, Inc. and Richard Bowen.
Okay. So it is just from an operator to a manager, but it's being run by from the owners of Honeydew. Is that correct?
Yeah, Kevin Quirk ran it for years, and now it's Richard Bowen, who was the original owner of the store, is now taking ownership.
Okay. Is there anyone from the operations on my mic? No.
Say that again, Michael.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if that feedback is that feedback me?
No, it's everyone.
Yeah, so if everyone could mute if you're not talking, it would be. Go ahead, Michael.
So is anyone from the application on tonight?
Yes, how you doing? My name is Don Levin. I'm the Director of Quality Control at Honeydew Associates. Myself are on this meeting, and Jim Bewan is on this call as well. He's works with Honeydew Operations as well.
All right, Ms. Levy, could I give you just an opportunity just to kind of, it sounds pretty straightforward, but give you an opportunity just to talk a little bit about the change?
Sure. As Michael mentioned, Kevin Quirk has been the franchisee there for probably 10 years or so. He is not leaving us completely. He's taken over the location we have in Norwood, Mass. And again, we're Honeydew Operations. We'll be taking over this location. and just operating the same way it has been operating, just under our guidance.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board?
None.
So, Mr. Levitt, are you going to be looking for an owner of this particular location, or is that still to be determined in the future? A franchisee looking for a
To be
franchise?
determined, on the date, but most likely, yes, in the future, we will be looking to turn it over to a brand new franchisee. Or possibly an existing franchisee.
I got you. Right. So, if you reviewed the packet that we've had in front of us, the chair would be open to a motion to approve the common vic license transfer from from KMPZ Inc. doing business as Honeydew Donuts to Honeydew Operations Inc. doing business as Honeydew Donuts to be utilized at 61 West Main Street, Norton, Mass.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so motion from Renee and a second from Christine. And let's move to any discussion. Seeing none, let's move to a vote. Meg,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
and Renee,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. Okay. So that is transferred as approved.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Okay, seeing no more licenses or permits. Is that me that's causing this? Or?
I don't hear it, Michael, but I'll mute myself.
I'm not sure. Yeah, seeing no more licenses or permits, let's move to announcements. And Christine, I know you just came. Do you want to do you have any announcements, or I'm just looking through the packet real quickly. I didn't see any in the packet.
I don't have any announcements.
Okay. Are there any other announcements from the select board that didn't make the packet? You guys are making this easy for me tonight. Look at you. So seeing no announcements, let's move on to new business.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to kill 5 minutes, I could do the town manager's report.
Let's do that because we have a public hearing at 7:15 and 7:10. So if there aren't any objections, I'm going to move to having the town manager do his report.
Okay, just a couple things. One is on potholes. This winter we're having with freezing cold temperatures, then warm temperatures and rain, and you're going to continue to see potholes. And I just wanted to, we've been contacted by some people, and I just want to remind people that under Massachusetts law, if you hit a pothole that the town is not aware of, we are not responsible for damage to your vehicle. If we're notified of a pothole and we don't fill it within 24 hours and someone hits that pothole, then it is our responsibility. So be cautious in how you're driving, and if you do hit a pothole, go through your insurance company. You can contact the town, but more than likely we're going to tell you to contact your insurance company, and your insurance company is should be more than willing to contact our insurance company and see if there is any reimbursement. But I just wanted to make people aware of that.
Mike, there's a huge pothole on Reservoir Street. So let the record show. The problem is there's one on Reservoir, or one in Mansfield, and one in Norton because it's right on the town line. But they're both pretty bad.
All right, we were notified at 7:12.
Hey, Mike, speaking of that, is there a list somewhere that people can see if potholes been reported, or you just want people to keep calling?
They should notify the highway department, and the highway department would keeps a list and sends the guys right out. I know
Okay.
Keith has used an unbelievable amount of mix the last few weeks, filling the holes.
Are they staying filled with the extreme cold that we've been having?
It's very hard. The extreme cold, and the worst thing is when we get the rain, because things soften up and then you get the rain and, you know, then the holes open up again. So, and I want to thank the highway. They did a surprise 30-hour storm on the weekend. You know, some of the guys were out 24 hours straight again for the storm that would never end. It was supposed to be 1 inch, maybe 3. It ended up being like 9 or 10. And I did get a call on Monday morning from someone that was upset that their kids had to go through 3 inches of snow to get to their bus. I was nice. I explained that we'd get the highway right out there. I didn't say what I really wanted to say is get some boots. This is New England. But anyways, and I just wanted to emphasize again, we really need volunteers for positions in town, the assessors, conservation, planning, recreation commission. So if anyone wants to get involved, you know, I encourage them to.
Hey, Mike, have we posted this on the electronic signs in town and maybe even that highway sign too?
I know Charlene put it on the sign out front.
Okay. Can we see if the school system would do it too? I mean, because we're pretty short, right? Like we're looking at like a dozen positions.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we have the ability, and if we have already and I missed it, I apologize. Do we have the ability to send it through like the alert system too, just to let people know that they're there and where to go?
Yep, we could. Yep.
So right now, I know that the assessors has a spot. Conservation has 1 or 2 spots.
1 now. Planning
Okay.
has a few.
Planning has 2, right?
Yeah.
Is it 2 open now or 1 open now and 2 coming up?
I believe they have 2 open now.
Yeah.
So planning and assessors are elected positions. There is 1 open right now on planning and 1 open on the assessors that people could be appointed to. But that would only be until April, and then they'd have to run again.
Or be reappointed, right, after an election?
No, well, yeah, if no one ran again, yeah.
What about in Parks and Recs? I mean, I know they're always looking for people, but how many? I mean, are there a number of spots that are available there?
Well, yeah, there are. I know the director is going to reach out to the people that are currently on there. I know they had a meeting last night, and I think, Christine, there were 2 people on. And I know one other night I was on, and there was 1 person on. So I know she's going to reach out to the current members, make sure they all still want to be on the commission, and then see if there's any other people that want to join.
Okay. All right, so 2 in planning, 1 in conservation, 1 in the assessors, at least 2 in Parks and Recs. Did I miss any other committees and
No.
boards?
And conservation, did you say that one? Yeah.
Conservation 1, yeah. Okay, and you're going to check to see if the schools have the option to put it up on their board,
Yep.
as well as the highway. Anything else, Mike?
Nope, that's it.
I'm going to jump back to new business and take a vote to open the public. I have to take a vote to open the public hearing, correct, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. The chair would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for the application of Exit Leasing LLC for a Class 2 license to buy, sell, exchange, or assemble secondhand motor vehicles or parts thereof in accordance to the provisions of Chapter 140 of Massachusetts General Laws at 253 Mansfield Avenue, Norton, Mass. 02766.
So moved.
Motion so moved from Renee, second.
Second.
Meg, second. And Christine,
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
and I too am a yes. And so, Mike, do you want to walk us through this, or is the applicant on
Yep,
here?
no, I'll start off and then the
Okay.
applicant is on, and he can follow up. So this is for an application for 6 vehicles. I think you have in your packet the plan that shows where the cars will be displayed out on the front of the property along Mansfield Ave. And I know Mr. Rasciuto is on if he'd like to tell you a little bit about what he plans to do.
Mr.
yeah.
Schuler? Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm here for Exit Leasing for a Class 2 dealer license at 253 Mansfield Ave. Basically, it's just at a maximum, I think we'll have 6 cars parked out there. I don't intend on having that many most of the time, but that would be our maximum. And I think our hours of operation I had said was for weekdays from 9 to 5 and Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 2. And it'll be all used car sales.
Mike, where is 253 Mansfield Avenue? Exactly, just point of reference.
253 Mansfield Ave is just after Alberto's,
Okay,
heading towards Mansfield.
okay.
Is that the location that currently has the hub and the catering company?
Yes, that's correct.
Great.
Is
And,
there-
questions
I'm
from the board? No questions from the board?
Michael, I was just going to ask, just to clarify, it's 6 parking out front?
Yes, maximum of 6 cars.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't intend on usually having that many cars out there.
Okay, and then what about any other cars around the property?
Oh yeah, there are. The parking lot is rather large and there's other businesses there. This would be just the front.
Oh, no, I mean for you. Are you anticipating that you'll have cars anywhere else other
Oh,
than
no.
in the front? Okay.
No. That'll be it. That'll be it. Just those 6 spots.
Okay.
Mr. Rasciuto, is it just general? Are they classic cars? Are they, what's your model of business? Is it just standard cars, or is it specialty cars of anything, or?
So yeah, that's a good question. So it's more of it's a passion for us. This is not my primary business. But it'll be like new cars, like no more than 3 or 4 years old, and they're usually the high-end cars. It's just because I just enjoy cars. That's pretty much the gist of it.
So you're the one who found all the used cars. Is what you're telling us? Because there aren't nobody else can find them.
I know. It's such a bad time for her right now. I know. Timing isn't my strong suit, I guess.
Will you be using social media, or how will you be communicating the sales of the cars, or?
Yeah, so it will be mainly online with social media and Facebook Marketplace, things like that.
And the one thing I didn't see in here is, Mike, is there a business license attached and I just missed it through the clerk?
I don't know if it's attached. I'll have to look.
Check page 25 of the packet. I see a certificate of the organization from the state.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. We're also trying to do that though from the town, correct? So we're just keeping that up to date with the town. Am I wrong about that, Mike?
Well, if someone is incorporated through the Commonwealth, yeah.
We use that as,
Yeah.
that is, okay.
I think, Michael, are you referring to the database that the EDC had helped prepare and Paul and team are now maintaining it?
Yeah, I know we pulled from the state database on that, Renee, but I was under the impression that that you still had to register with the town, but that's fine. I wasn't sure about that question.
I think we should I can circle back with Paul and just make sure this is, that he's aware of it and it can be added into the database.
Mr. Rizzuto, are you aware that the town also has an economic development commission as well?
I was not, no.
They always are inviting new businesses to come in and just talk to them even briefly, to just give it, to try to help. Their mission is try to help businesses grow in town, and they really welcome new businesses, and they're doing things within the social media also to welcome new businesses and to try to promote new businesses. And you've actually got the chair here as well, so I know that. And I'll pass it off to you, Renee, because I'm probably not doing it justice.
No, that's okay. It's a little off topic, but if you don't mind, I'll send you an email and provide you with a couple dates. And if you'd like to come and just talk to the EDC and give us an overview and timeline, anything that you'd like to add, like the EDC is certainly there to support businesses in town, and we'd appreciate your time with us.
Oh, no, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
All right. Then the chair would entertain the approval or motion to approve the application for Exit Leasing LLC for a Class 2 license to buy, sell, exchange, or assemble secondhand motor vehicles for parts thereof in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 140 of Massachusetts General Law at 253 Mansfield Avenue, Norton, Mass. 02766.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if you could also put in your motion for a maximum of 6 vehicles.
I will, for a maximum 6 vehicles added to my motion, added to the motion.
So moved.
Motion from Renee, second from Meg. And before the vote, is there any discussion from the public and or the board? Seeing none from the public or the board, the chair will move into a vote. Christine?
Yes.
Meg?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. Congratulations, Mr. Rizzuto. Welcome to town, and we look forward to seeing the success of your business.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, too.
Okay, I'd make a motion the chair would accept a motion to close the public hearing of the application of Exit Leasing LLC.
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Second from Meg. And this is non-discussion. And Christine?
Yes.
Meg?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too am yes. Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Town Manager, do you want to, as our next agenda item is presentation of the auditors, do you want to lead us in the discussion on that?
Sure. As you know, every year the town has an audit done and a report on the examination of basic financial statements and an independent auditor's report. And Tom Scanlon from Scanlon Associates is on to speak a little bit about the report.
Right. Hi, Mr. Scanlon. How are you?
You're good. How's everyone doing?
We're great. Thank you.
It's been a long year already.
To say the least.
So the audit went really well this year. We had no issues. We gave no adjustments to the financial statement. It's always good. We didn't have no disagreements with management. We used a mixture of our audit approach. We were on site and remote, kind of used like a 50-50 split. So we tried to keep the same kind of approach in place during this weird time, I'll call it. So I thought it went really, really well. Our main approach is we really put a lot of emphasis on substantive testing more than relying upon controls. So we do a lot of testing at the bank statement level and at the accounts receivable level. So the town has adequate controls over their significant accounts, like their cash reconciliations, their accounts receivable reconciliations, their expenditure processing, the payroll processing. I can't say enough about how well your financial reporting is. So that should that's one of the things I like to point out. And then just to talk briefly about your financial statements, kind of where you sit. I don't know if you have the reports in front of you. Or if,
We do.
yeah, about pages 18 and 19. Those are kind of your probably most important statements in here. I know governmental finance is kind of weird where they have two balance sheets. The first two are from a economic impact to take care of the OPEB liability, fixed assets, and that really has no impact on your budget. You're not budgeting depreciation. But when you look on page 18, that's your balance sheet on the modified accrual. And the general fund is your main fund. That's your operating fund. When we look at unassigned fund balance, you definitely have a healthy unassigned. It's 7.9 million. As a rough benchmark, the bond rating agencies, when they look at you, they like to see around 10% of your budget. Your budget is roughly about 63 million. So you're just over the 10% mark, which is good. So that 7.9 should be your free cash amount, which I think was certified 4.2 million this year. And then your stabilization amount of 2.5 is the main components of that. And then on page 22, that's kind of your budget versus actual with the general fund. I think it's always important to kind of review this statement, kind of knowing where your free cash comes from, because free cash is not a reoccurring in nature. So I think you have pretty good policies over how you're using it. You're not using it to reduce tax rate and set your budget for reoccurring items. So you have a nice mix of it, the way you use it. But when you look at this budget versus actual, the column all the way over to the right, that's how you compare to your budget. And that is the identifiers of how free cash is generated. So when we look at your current year budget, 2021, you generated 4.1 million in free cash off your current year budget. And how you did that is on your revenue side, you're very conservative on your estimated receipts, and you generated about $2 million on the receipt side. Majority coming from excise, license permits, and fees. And it's always good to be conservative on your motor vehicle excise, your room occupancy, because that's very market dependent. As we saw the last probably year and a half, 2 years, those two areas are probably taking a hit. And you're conservative, so it's good. And then on your license permits and fees, you had some large inspector receipts that came in that generated that $758,000. And then on the property tax side, you saw at the end of fiscal year 20, you extended the tax payments out to the end of June. So you saw a lot of payments that came in later in July and August due to COVID. And then on the expense side, you had 1.9 million, the majority coming from health insurance, approximately about $1 million in turnbacks there. It's always good to know how your free cash is being generated. So you're kind of like a nice mix. I don't know if anybody have any questions on that area.
Well, I know we got, I think, a one-time give back on health insurance. Is the majority of this year, is the majority from that give back?
Correct, I believe so. Yes, you had a.
Was 800? Was it?
Well, I want to say it was just over 800. I want to say 820 memory.
Yeah, I remember it was in that 800 range.
Yeah, that's kind of the one-time thing. That's why free cash can tend to fluctuate. I think you do a good job managing it. I'm sorry, Renee, please.
I was just gonna, as a follow-up to your question, what was the reason for that? I just don't remember.
I believe it was a premium holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of COVID, a lot of elective procedures weren't allowed at the hospitals. And so the use of the insurance was way down. So our health group voted to have a 1 month premium holiday. And that was how it was generated.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
and we've been seeing a lot of that with the health groups over the past year, especially in 21 after 20. So it's more the health groups more than when you're premium based. Got that kind of one time item.
There's no indication that we would get that again, right? Because those things are open back up and open up.
I
For this
don't
year?
believe so.
Okay.
I don't see that on the horizon, but you never know. Things seem to be changing by the day. This item.
Yeah,
By the way,
I wasn't sure if some of this was from like COVID relief money that we had seen. That's why I was asking.
No, CVRF monies like from the state, the CARES,
Mhm.
that type of thing. Yeah, no, that was run through a grant fund, so those would be in your non-major funds. When you go back to that first statement, that's where all those will be accounted for.
Okay, thank you.
So Ms. Scanlon, I know that you said that you didn't see there were no insults on any of the other lines or anything that you thought were just out of line or anything like that. Was there anything that you felt wasn't being utilized properly? And I know that's tough when you're auditing, but that was out of kilter to what the norms would be for a line item. Is there anything that stood out to you?
Nothing really stood out. So I mean, we're doing a financial audit. I know there's always a disconnect between a financial audit.
Yep.
If we bought 100 computers, did we get what we out of them? Well, we're just doing the financial line. A PO went through the system, you appropriated the money, got posted the line item. So none of that jumped out at us. So we focus when we do a lot of analyticals. We look for negative accounts in deficit. To that regard, any kind of reimbursable type grants to make sure you're reimbursing we'll pull test for compliance. So with procurement and we really focus on bank statements, making sure your reconciliations of your cash are a priority, and they have been. So from there, everything's kind of geography on your balance sheet, but nothing stood out to us that would cause us for concern. Yeah, I mean, you didn't have like $1 million deficit over in this one fund, and you were doing journal entries to cover it up. Then none of that we saw.
That's a different tone of a discussion, by the way.
That is a different tone. I have a few of those conversations a year, so
yeah,
it's nice to talk about good ones. So and then just some things talking about like the future. I know there's a lot of federal money being flushed into the system right now due to COVID with the ARPA funds. Especially them releasing that $10 million exemption for revenue loss. That's something you probably should take advantage of and kind of go on that route with your ARPA monies and really come up with a plan on the use of them and how that impacts you on the single audit side. So you said I got another report, which is a single audit. It's a small little packet, and that's on your federal grants. Roughly a town in 2021, you got about $4 million in federal funds. And that is a separate additional engagement outside the financial statements that if you spend over $750,000, you have to have a single audit that's more compliance oriented with the grants. Traditionally, the town's always had a single audit with this, but it's always been with SPED grants that's usually triggered the percentage. But with COVID monies coming in, that program was tested. That would be the school reopening grant and the CVRF. They have the same number to be tested. So with the ARPA funds, that's going to fall into this category and possible where you could have two programs being tested because there's just a lot of compliance requirements coming down and really just stay on top of those compliance requirements. I mean, things to be changed. Like something 2 weeks ago, I was telling a client to do something a certain way with ARPA funds, and then last Friday, the interpretations changed it. So you're kind of operating in this environment with grants that is constantly changing. It's kind of hard to deal with, especially with the CVRF monies that came in the CARES and the FEMA. Those rules change. You're submitting under CARES, and all of a sudden the rules changed and FEMA became 100% eligible. So there was a lot of reallocation of those. And again, really staying on top of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm telling my clients in my towns is with these FEMA grants and these CARES grants, don't be surprised if there's a deficit at the end of these and those funds to clean up. So to stay on top of things, which you have controls in place to do that. But that's kind of the only thing advice I would give for the future.
And are you referring to like it looks like we had 5 funds that had deficits? Is that what you mean specifically?
No, specifically with the CARES, the COVID monies.
Okay.
We were talking about the deficits on the free cash end of it.
So
It does look like, yeah. And when you mentioned COVID, I see like bullet number 4 talks about the emergency management grant special revenue funds, and it's slightly above 500,000. I wasn't sure if that was. It's on page 39, and for the board, it's on page 93. Like it has Camp Edith Reed, the street lights, school windows and doors, capital project, the emergency management grant revenue, and then Massachusetts Clean Water Trust.
Correct. So the Mass Clean Water Trust in the school windows and doors, that's a unique thing with governmental accounting. Those are in deficit because you didn't bond them yet. You have a ban in place. So it's temporary. No.
Okay.
The other ones, yes, the COVID, the 501 is monitoring that with the FEMA.
Okay.
So FEMA's behind. I don't even know if you got your money yet. I don't even know if they have the costs approved yet at the FEMA level. Because FEMA, I remember those storms that came through like 3 or 4 years ago. Towns are just getting money now for FEMA. So I anticipate it's going to be a long drawn out process with these COVID money.
Okay. I saw James show himself. I don't know, Michael, if you saw that.
yeah, I did see that.
Nope.
Hey, James.
Hey, sorry. I don't know if you can. It's a little windy here where I am. I just wanted to mention that the FEMA money has been received mostly. We're only waiting for the last reimbursement. And when it's all said and done, I'm pretty confident that we're going to be within like $600-700 of what we spent. So if there is a deficit, the deficit won't be more than $700. Out of over almost $2 million that we received between CARES and FEMA. That's not that bad at all. And it has to do with the way that, like Tom said earlier, they kept changing what could qualify for it and what couldn't, and we were moving money around, and they changed percentages. Some of the submittals that were made for the lunch, they were rounding them up or down, and we create like a $10 deficit here or there. And so when you add all of those up, I'm thinking it's gonna be like $600-700 at the most.
And I think that speaks to your controls that you have in place, because the environment that was in, it just was constantly changing from, March of 20 to now. The rules just changed. And for you to be within that range, I think speaks volume on your controls that you have and your monitoring.
And with FEMA, it seemed to change. Whoever was reviewing the applications would come up with a different answer. So.
Yep.
And Scale, and that's pretty much what you were talking about with that. You were talking about those deficits to watch, where towns would just overspend, thinking they're getting reimbursement, and then the money's just not there. Is that what you were hitting on?
I mean, for instance, I have towns that are similar size as you, and they're looking at like a $300,000 deficit because of just, because.
Now, as I get into, and I was looking at the enterprise accounts, I see that they're separated and so forth. Is there any, I was looking on page 26 specifically on the report, and I'm not sure if that's where it would be. Is there any, obviously this shows it looks like I said, a full year-end sheet for that, and with cash flows and so forth. Is there anything on there that there was nothing on the enterprise? And I know that you weren't concerned as a whole with the board's enterprise counts or anything that stood out to you?
No, and that's part of the process we would look at. I mean, page 26 is the cash flow statements. That's more cash basis. page 24 is the statement of net position. That's on a full accrual basis. It has capital assets in there, except the business type funds have to be accounted for under GAAP.
Yep.
But they're very healthy in the way you operate them. Of course, utility funds can have a nice surplus and they could be gone in an instant, just with the cost of just maintaining utility funds. But yeah, I mean, you're balancing your receivables, the way you're setting your budget with your rates, and nothing that jumped out for us there either. And you're reconciling all the accounts. So, yeah, and they seem pretty straightforward, which is good. You don't want to see negatives down there under net position, and you're not seeing that there with the utility funds.
Mike, it's more of a question for Mike and James. Do we see any big shifts as we're taking on more financial debt with town hall or any of that coming on here? Obviously, do we see that kind of throwing some of these SKUs off or so forth for next year, or anything that we should be preparing for?
I don't, because all the debt for the town hall, senior center, and school field project, they're all debt exclusions. So I don't see any issue there.
Notice 7:43, Jack Conway joined us, and right after this segment, he's going to take over the helm. So, any other Meg or Christine or Renee? Jack, we are just getting the presentation right now. We're on the presentation of the audit.
Great. Thanks, Michael.
Meg, did you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Christine?
No.
Okay.
Michael, I have one for Tom.
Please, Frank.
I'm looking at the section that talks about the credit risk, the interest rate risk. Like, are any of these concerning that we need to spend some time on individually to mitigate that risk?
No, and I don't like this. No, this is a GASB note. No, you do a good job monitoring your banks with collateralized. You spread it out. I think you reduce your risk. And then Massachusetts is very unique, where they have a legal list of investments, and you stay on them, so it's pretty safe. So the custodial credit risk, you don't have too much of an issue. Your treasurer has procedures in place where they really monitor the banks. I think they use the Veribank ratings, if I'm not mistaken. And they're monitoring, and they monitor their collateralization thresholds, whether they're DIF or FDIC. But no, I don't think it's anything cause of concern. I think it's just letting you know where your investments are.
Okay.
It's nothing to be concerned about. It's more disclosure.
Sure. And the note under the custodial credit risk, it says the town has no policy on it. Yep. Does that just mean like it would be in our best interest to create a policy specific to that risk?
You could create. I mean, I don't think it doesn't add any more risk on your end if you have a policy or not. I mean, you just don't have a formal policy adopted on that custodial credit risk.
Okay. Mike, is that something that's included in I think there's the policy that's going around? So you're muted, Mike. Yes, I got to say it today.
Yeah, Tom, we're working on a financial policy. Last time we had our call with Standard & Poor's, that came up. So I'll actually send you the draft. So you can
Yeah, I know they've been, the calls have been sitting in. They've been really emphasizing those.
Yep.
They want a more formal. The only thing I would caution you on those is I had a town several years ago, they adopted a policy and it was pretty strict the way they developed their use of reserves and what percentage they were taking. And then when there's a dip in the market here where COVID got hit, they didn't meet their policy of like taking 25% and putting it in a stabilization. And they were almost dinged for it because they didn't stay to their policy. So don't make it too strict on items. And then and also the train's coming through. I don't know if you can hear that.
I was gonna say, holy moly.
Sounds like my house.
Yeah. We are right on the tracks. If there's ever a derailment in Deerfield, you probably, my office ain't gonna be here. And then the thing with custodial credit risk, you also don't want to be too restricted where you limit what banking relationships you have. You kind of, when you go into the bond market, you're looking for a band. And I know during COVID, when there was kind of a shortage of everything, your banking relationship kind of made up for like your bands and cash flow and stuff when everyone went in. So that's why custodial credit risk policy, not something you really have to have, but it's something you could consider. But you are monitoring your banks. I don't want you to think you're not where your risk is.
So,
Thank you.
Is it common practice for the auditors to, as we establish that policy and pass that policy, that even before it's finalized, that they review it just for recommendations? Is that common practice?
Yeah, definitely. We like to look at them just in case you don't have any crazy items in there,
Mike had this funny look on his face when you said crazy items. So, Jack, do you have any questions?
Nope, I am all set, Michael. Thank you very much.
Great. Mr. Scanlon, by the way, Michael, do we have to accept the audit?
No.
Okay. Okay, then, Mr. Scanlon, thank you very, very much. And we appreciate the work and the work that your firm does for the town.
Yeah, thanks. And if you have any questions anytime about anything, you have concerns, or if something pops up, you have an area of concern you want us to look at, don't hesitate to send me an email or call us and talk it through. That's not an issue.
And we're both glad there's good wireless communications in Mexico.
It looked like he was in a bar, though, didn't
I was going to suggest that we go wherever James is, and then found out it was Mexico, and I'm like, we definitely should go.
Yeah.
Sorry, James.
Yeah, no, it's the audit obviously is a testament to James's team's hard work, and obviously you're judging. Unfortunately, your job is to judge Mr. James's hard work. So we appreciate that. All right, moving on to the next section. I'm going to pass this off to the chair, Jack. Are you ready to take the helm here, sir?
I'm good to go. Thank you very much for filling in, Mike. Appreciate it. Apologize for my argument this evening. So if I'm following along correctly, we are moving into a discussion and/or vote to approve and enter into the Bristol Norfolk Public Health Partners Inter-Municipal Agreement. I think that needs a better abbreviation. So
that's why I passed it off to you, Jack.
Appreciate that. You're a real mensch. So I think we have our health agent on as well. I believe he's speaking to this. So Mr. Town Manager and Mr. Zarn, why don't you tell us what this is all about?
Okay, I'll have Chris speak on it, and I will say that our town council has reviewed the agreement, and actually KP wrote the agreement, and all the town managers did have a Zoom meeting to review it and agree on it.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's been a while. So this is the start of what the state is trying to regionalize public health a little bit with shared services. And so basically this is the start of that process. What we would be doing is we would become a part of the Bristol Norfolk Public Health Partnership, which will be a collaborative of the town of Easton, Foxborough, Mansfield, Plainville, Sharon, and Northam. Essentially, the first 3 years of this is fully funded by this grant. This grant will cover, well, there's actually two grants here. One is through the regionalization part, which would be a housing inspector and a food inspector that is shared throughout the six towns. And then the second part is a grant from the Bureau of Infectious Disease and laboratory science, which is going to be used for our own epidemiologist and a clerk to work with that epidemiologist to help us with not only finishing out COVID, and I say finishing out, it's not gone yet, but to help us with COVID and take over the case and cluster investigations, contact trace and isolation. But we'll be there in the future for other things such as TB investigations and any other disease investigations we have to deal with. I kind of think that this is a no-brainer on this. I think I sent you guys an email. I think it's a no-brainer because we could try it out for 3 years, and if it works out, we'll reassess at that point. But it's at no cost to the town right now for at least those first 3 years. And if we find that after the 3 years, we're obviously going to push to get more grant money to fund it further at that point. But if we find at that point that it's a great advantage to our town, we may discuss how we can help fund it. But at this point, it's going to be, like I said, 3 years fully funded. So with that, I'll take any questions on it.
Thank you, Chris. Open up the questions on the board.
Mr. Chair.
Michael?
So Kristen, is this kind of almost what they've been trying to do? I know they were trying to make the county programs and try to create this. Is this they're finally putting money behind what they talked about? Is that what this is?
That's what this is, yeah. And so it's a small start, actually. It's a very small start because they really pushed us to have as many towns as we could. But unfortunately, that makes us, now with 6 towns and 2 inspectors doing housing and food, we're going to get 6 hours a week from each inspector. So it's not a huge advantage, but it's free for right now. And we can see how it's going to work. It's kind of like giving it a test drive.
And Mr. Chairman, if I just follow up,
Yep.
Is there any downside right now, Chris? Is there any
downside? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Again, because there's no real financial impact, I don't see the downside on it. Like I said, I think the state has been pushing for regionalization for quite some time, as you may know, and I think this is a good way for us to try it out and see. We're going to put together once all towns have signed on to this, we're going to put together an advisory board, which will have a member from each town as well as an alternate from each town. And I think it's a good way for us to figure out how it's going to work. Is it going to work? Where can it be an advantage for us? And is it something that we should carry forward, or is it something that's just not going to work out? So for a free test drive for 3 years, I think it's kind of a pretty easy decision.
Great.
So Chris, can I ask a couple questions? And Mike, some of this might fall into you. There's a section on here that talks about the lead towns, and it looks like Foxborough and Mansfield are identified as the 2 lead towns.
Yep.
What are the differences in the benefits between the lead towns and the others?
So the lead town, this is just strictly because Foxborough was the initial, they did the original grant application. And so they are going to be in charge of all payments for the housing inspector and the food inspector. When the inspectors work in your town, they'll fall under your insurance. Is that right, Mike? Yeah. So under the liability insurance of each town, when they're, depending on which town they work in. But I don't think there's any major advantage for them as far as being the lead. Matter of fact, it makes their job harder. Mansfield was the originator of the epidemiologist grant, so they are going to be the ones that do the official hire and do the payroll through their system.
Okay, and then what's our financial obligation after the first 3 years?
None. We could assess it at that point. I would say, after 2.5 years, we'll know, and we can assess whether or not there looks like there's any grant funding available or in the pipeline, or if it looks like we're going to start self-supporting this, in which case we can just, assess whether or not it's advantageous to do so.
Okay, so we would have to evaluate that at that time. And then
Yeah.
I assume that the condition to withdraw, like it mentions those towns or those municipalities that aren't lead municipalities have to withdraw by a vote by the select board and the Board of Health, and have to
Right.
provide them with written notice at least 3 months prior. So we would need to start that evaluation like 6 months before the contract term.
Right, that's why I said, about two and a half years in, we're gonna wanna start that assessment to figure out whether or not we wanna stay in, if there's any money in the pipeline through grant money and that type of thing.
Okay.
Which with the advisory board, we're gonna have those answers pretty quick, you know, because we're gonna be following it closely.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? So one thing I did note, in case anyone is wondering, there is a section here that states that any employees of each municipality remain employees of that municipality. So this does not change where, say, your role comes out of Chris. That role does not get regionalized. You stay an employee of the town of Norton. So it changes there. Okay. All right. Excellent. Very good.
So it looks like we need a vote to approve. It looks like, Mr. Chairman.
That's what I think. So I would entertain a motion to approve the or to enter into the Bristol Norfolk Public Health Partners intermunicipal agreement.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Meg,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Michael.
Aye.
I too am a yes. All right. Thank you very much for bringing this to us, Chris. And,
No problem. If I could just give a little bit of a follow-up on this now. So we are on kind of a time constraint as far as getting this contract signed. I'm asking the board if there's a chance that each member could stop by town hall between now and February 28th to sign this contract.
Can this be processed through HelloSign, Mike?
I have put a request into the town of Foxborough to see if that's a possibility. But if not, I'm asking to see if it's possible. I'm actually going to be out next week. I've got a medical procedure tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to be out of recovery for a week. So I just wanted to try to close this up before I left.
Because I saw it in the packet. I was in town hall today, and I didn't have any idea where to sign it. So, is there, I don't know, Jen, if there's some way you can put something there, because it was crazy. There was towns and different positions for each town. I was like, so I just left it blank. So yeah, so if we just make sure we know where it is, then yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll be back on the 28th. So if I have to, I'll come to your house if I have to get it signed. I just want to, I just want to get it
offered
done.
that before.
Yeah.
So we're actually having an emergency Board of Health meeting on the 28th as well to get this signed by my board. They wanted to make sure that you were all on board beforehand. So we're gonna meet on the 28th to get their signatures as well. So yeah, if we can get them signed before then, by then rather, I should say, then that'd be great.
Chris, why was I thinking of the movie Taken? You have a special set of skills and you will find them.
So I would like to think that we could get a majority of the board signatures within the next 12 days.
Is majority sufficient, Jack? Or does it have to be all 5 members? I think we can do it too, but we sometimes tend to forget, and Jen might have to come door to door.
There's only, to Meg's point, the signature page, which is page 10 on here, is very confusing. There's no specification of which town goes where, and there's only one line for signatures, so we're all going to have to write an itty bitty letter in order to get that.
And just for the record, I already signed it.
I'll make sure it's signed. I'll make sure it's easy for you.
I think I already signed it. And I took a whole line. Sorry, Jack.
No problem. So Mike pulled a John Hancock. So good to know.
I'll make sure it's all laid out for you.
All right. Sounds good.
We'll get it done.
All right.
Thank you.
Don't go.
No, don't go. I'm assuming
No,
that
don't
you
go,
answered
don't go,
part of our item number 4. If you guys are meeting in person on the 28th.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's move into that discussion on mask mandates and in-person meetings. So, Chris, what's your current evaluation of where things stand?
So my take, I know that you have all heard that the state has lifted the mandate for the schools as of the 28th. Obviously, each district has their right to continue it if they want to, but I did talk to Dr. Bayetta, and he felt that, I don't know if the school committee's met on this or not yet, but I do know that he was saying that they were going to be on board to end the mask
They did,
mandate.
they voted it, yeah.
Okay, good. You know, back in mid-January, our positivity rate was 21.5. 5% is the panic time. So 21.5 was pretty high. We're now at 2.8. So we are way down. Right now, we currently have 4 active cases in the town, and all 4 of them are going to be out of isolation as of Saturday. I think that I think everything is low enough where we should consider removing the masks in town hall, municipal buildings, and I think that in-person meetings is doable. The only thing that I'm concerned about with the in-person on the select board is where you're going to meet. But if it's going to be at some place like the library where it's large, I think it's fine. It's just cramming into the media center could be a little different, you know. But that being said, the state really wants us to move forward with learning how to live with the virus and not fight against it all the time.
So, Chris, are you saying that there's? I'm sorry. Are you saying that there's still an element of social distancing that you want to occur?
Well, I'm not really putting that restriction on. The state hasn't put any restrictions on with it. It's recommendations that we should try, in my opinion, that we should try to do the right thing and just be safe. But I don't think that it should be a full restriction. You know, it's like the masks. You know, just because, you know, if you decide tonight well, first of all, the original mask mandate was a vote of the select board, which is one of the reasons why I haven't made a decision personally with my board to lift the mandate, because it's done through the select board. The first time, I would like you guys to make the decision on the ending of the mandate. But you know, just because that mandate ends, or if it ends, that doesn't mean people can't wear masks, and it doesn't mean we can't highly recommend they do. You know, but I just think that, you know, the way things are going, the trending the way they're going, I think it's a safe time to do it based upon our numbers and based upon what the state's giving us for information.
And based on that, Chris, the state, I thought in their recommendation was to lift the mandate for all those vaccinated and still have requirements in place for unvaccinated. Is that your recommendation?
It's not requirements. It's high recommendations. Like if we look at trying to see the word they use for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up too.
The only requirement that is still in place is stuff like healthcare settings, congregate care, rehab centers, transportation, public transportation. That's like the schools. I'm pretty sure the mask mandate's being lifted, but they still have to wear it on school buses because it's on a part of the transportation. But I don't think that, you know, I think they're just encouraging people that are unvaccinated or have weakened immune systems or live with somebody with weakened immune systems to continue to wear a mask indoors. It doesn't say that they're required to.
Yep. And is that your recommendation to us as well?
Yeah, it's just that we should switch from a mandate to a highly recommend if you are in that situation. You know, the other thing that we've had recently happen with the way things are calming down, and people watch the news and they understand that. As we all know, there's always been this difference of opinion with the way things have been handled with COVID, whether, you know, through political or however that opinion came up. But we had a gentleman, we have a senior volunteer that's sitting at a desk just inside town hall right now that's doing a tremendous job at reading people as they come in and helping them find their way. And I watched him offer a gentleman a mask, and that guy almost took his head off. So it's also a situation where I don't really want to have, the way things are right now. I think that a high recommendation. If you could just say to him, "Can I offer you one mask?" And if the gentleman says no, you got to end it at that. I don't want anybody getting hurt from it. I don't think that we're in the situation where we need to be that strict about it.
Okay. Yeah, because it looked like their recommendation too for in situations where the public is there, like they say signage available for other work sites reminding unvaccinated visitors, clients, or customers to continue to wear their masks.
Right. Right. But again, it's not mandated. It's just it's going to be recommendation.
Yeah, that one didn't say specifically. It just said if it has a site-specific mandate or local mandate. So, okay. Just one more question. I'm sorry, Jack. So in respect to masking, we would still expect that folks follow the CDC guidelines for exposure or close contact, that if they're not up to date on other eligible doses and they've been exposed, that they would wear a mask for 10 days? Are we following those guidelines as well?
Yeah, those guidelines, as long as they're in place, are going to be followed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if I'm understanding you correctly, Chris, you're saying that you would be comfortable with the various boards in town resuming in-person meetings, resuming at their discretion, as the state emergency order that allows hybrid and virtual meetings still is in effect. So I think it becomes up to each individual board to make a determination.
Right.
Okay. Do we need a formal vote on that, or is that just a policy update from the Board of Health?
I would hope that you could do a vote to lift the mandate that you had originally put in for the masks. With regards to the meetings, that's something that I put in. I would just like your opinion on it. As long as you guys are good with it, we'll go ahead and lift it. As far as closing out the meetings, I'd extended it through our Omicron surge and made sure that we weren't meeting in person. But I think now it should be okay to do so. So the mask mandate is something I would definitely need a vote for. If we want to throw the meetings into it, that'd be great too. But I don't necessarily need it.
Just trying to make sure I'm following along with what we need to do. I do recall the vote on the mask mandate. So I think you can certainly issue an updated guidance on the meetings for the mask mandate. Do we want to have any discussion on that? And for reference for those following along at home, that was a mandate only for municipal buildings for those coming in there. Any questions or concerns about adopting Chris's revised guidance, that becomes a recommendation and not a mandate?
Chris, do we have the number for the vaccination rate of Norton?
The last time I looked at it, it was right around 70%.
Okay.
It was a upper 60%, I should say. It was like 68.
Okay.
The other thing that is really made things difficult on my end, I should let you finish your vote, I apologize. But I'll just say that, once they opened up home testing to everybody, our job became almost impossible. Because although a lot of those kids will tell you to report to your Board of Health or go on their website and register your results, a lot of people don't. So, then the schools were accepting the home testing. So I would have, 6 kids that were positive in the schools, and they would have 48 because they use a home test. So I think that's another reason why the state's just kind of moving forward here. So that being said, I just wanted to throw that out there, that the numbers right now are just so skewed with regards to positivity and that type of thing.
Very good. Yeah, I remember back in the Christmas holiday season, it was impossible to get a test no matter what your situation was. And I was able to get one this morning with 20 minutes notice. So things have definitely improved. So anecdotal, but that's my experience. So with that, I would entertain a motion to revise our mask guidance for municipal buildings to be a recommendation to wear a mask and not a mandate.
So moved.
Jack, can I amend that to be more specific?
Certainly.
Chris, I don't know if it is required for us to say that we are removing the mandate. But Jack, if I can add that the board would recommend that unvaccinated individuals and fully vaccinated individuals with weakened immune system, or those that have someone at home with a weakened immune system or an increased risk for severe disease, and those with a heightened risk for severe disease because of age or an underlying medical condition, wear face coverings when indoors.
Is that in line with the state, Christian?
It is. It's part of the guide, part of the recommendation. The only tough part is it's impossible to police, but
it's a recommendation, though.
It's
so again,
a recommendation. Yeah, we can put it out there. We can put it on the signage to make it known and really encourage them to do so. Yeah, if it stays as a recommendation, it should be okay.
So we will adopt Renee's friendly amendments to the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Meg.
Yes.
Renee.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Michael.
Aye.
I too am a yes. All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
best of luck with the procedure.
Can I just ask when that's effective today or tomorrow? Is there?
I can amend that motion to be effective immediately.
Yeah, I just because the schools aren't until next week, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't think we need to wait on this though.
Yeah.
We see probably 5 people walk through the town hall hallways during the course of the day, so it's not the same, as they have to do some preparation. We really don't. We're already prepared with our glass shields and that type of thing.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, Chris. And best of luck with your procedure. I hope to see you back soon and speedy recovery.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for Chris. We are amending the in-person meetings we're modifying the in-person. You're going to be modifying the in-person meetings as well.
I'll put out a statement tomorrow for that. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, I can't wait to get back to taking notes with a pad and pencil at the meetings, and hopefully it'll be in March, right?
Sounds like we're on that path, Peter. Very exciting times. All right. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Moving right along. Item number 5, discussion and or vote to approve and enter into a grant agreement with Bristol County ARPA. Mr. Town Manager, you want to educate us on this one?
Yeah, we have allotted to us a little over $3 million in ARPA funds from Bristol County. And so this agreement has to be in place so that we can access the funds. And it's pretty standard language after you heard from the auditor tonight, where it's federal funds, we're subject to the audits, and we have to report quarterly to Bristol County what we've expended any funds on. And as soon as we get this in place, we can access some of the funds. And I did give you 2 requests that we'd like to put into them too. The water department's looking to replace the water main on South Worcester Street and East Hodges Street. They've had a few water main breaks on East Hodges Street recently. And so this would get rid of some lead goosenecks that they have on that water line. So that's $2,687,500. And then they need to do work on the Holly Road at the intersection of Reservoir and the Norwood pump stations, sewer pump stations, and 225,000 would be used for that.
So virtually 90-ish% of the funds that would be available would be consumed by the contracts.
Yes.
Were there any other potential uses for these funds that should be considered before we commit such a large percentage of that to one specific project, regardless of the need of that one?
There haven't been, other than some of the smaller things that we're doing, requests have coming in from departments that we plan on using our ARPA funds, the $2 million we're getting in ARPA funding directly to the town.
So they could be handled separately. The entering into the ARPA agreement and then approving the grant requests. Does that need a vote to do so, or is that something that you have the authority to do solely?
I would like your approval on those projects before we submit them. Sure.
So why don't we take that one at a time? Let's focus first on the ARPA agreement. Looks fairly straightforward for a governmental contract.
Has KP Law looked at this?
Yes.
Scrolling through here, so if anyone has any specific questions that they've come across, please feel free to jump in and ask.
At the Bristol County Advisory Board, we talked about this, and sometimes where I thought it was ridiculous that this agreement was in place, and they pretty much said, that's fine, we can just kind of rediverse the money to other towns and so forth. So it's almost, I felt like it was really not even they were like, okay, that's fine, we'll just give the money away to someone else. Just give you the tone of the meeting. I'm sorry, Christine, I think I cut you off.
You're gonna cut me off.
Jack, I was going to ask, can you give just a minute? This was, I made it to about 100 and page 160 in our packet. This is a little bit beyond there. I just want to take a quick peek. I agree. I think I'm surprised that there's such extensive language on this, but if you would please give just 1 second.
Yep. And somebody pull up the Jeopardy music while we read through the.
Really?
All right.
You asked.
That to myself. All right. Thank you, Peter. We always count on you. So, Mike, is there a particular section in here that states what these funds can be used for? That's sort of where I want to focus in on initially.
I'll see if it's in here. I don't remember if they put it in there. It's when we got the guidance from the federal government on our ARPA funds, it's basically the same guidance. Infrastructure projects, things to do with public health and safety.
Okay.
It says, Jack, it's under Article 2. But to Mike's point, it really doesn't say.
Yeah. I guess if it's tying back to another, or the general ARPA or the ARP Act, right? Then that sort of covers it, I guess.
And Mike, what are our requirements? So I imagine that we are the primary record keeper for any expenses that we're seeking funding for?
Correct. Just like any other grant, we'd have to, the town accountant will have to keep track separately, all the Bristol County funds. We have to keep by category. We have to keep records of everything that we use the funds for based on the ARPA categories.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Michael.
So Mike, with the first vote we're going to do is on the agreement, correct? I know that the other two projects that we're talking about is stapled to this packet. We're doing the agreement first because questions I have are really about the projects.
Yeah, sure.
Is that correct, or is it we voting on to all as one?
No. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, my intent, Michael, is to take these separately. One for the agreement, open up the eligibility of the funds, and then go project by project.
Thank you.
Like I said, it seems straightforward, if a bit vague in spots. It does put the onus on the grantee to maintain compliance with all auditing requirements, to use the project funds as described in the application. Yeah. Renee, you still reading through?
Yeah, and I just, Mike, I'm sorry, I realized under Schedule A it had the reporting requirements. I think I'm good, Jack. I'm at the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Any specific questions on the agreement for ARPA funds through Bristol County? If there are none, which I do not see, I would entertain a motion to enter into the grant agreement with Bristol County ARPA as presented tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Meg?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
2 and a yes. Now, let's get into the nitty gritty about these projects.
And we could put these on a future agenda and have the water and sewer department come and talk about the requests.
Yeah, my personal concern is just basically allocating such a large portion of the funds so quickly. I think it might behoove us to take a beat and see what else is needed. I mean, if the grant funds are truly for infrastructure project, it seems like it fits the need. I just don't know what else is out there. So would the board be comfortable with holding off on the project specific grant requests until a later date?
Are they necessary to enter into the agreement?
No, the agreement has to go in first.
Okay, I'm fine with that, Jeff.
Okay.
That's wise, because I'll tell you this, the $2.6 million project I would want to hear from the water department, that seems like an awful lot for a project that isn't just showing up on our radar now. And I'm not saying that wasn't needed, it just seems like a lot of money for a project that I just don't know anything about.
Yeah. And so Mike, perhaps at our next meeting or perhaps the following, we can have Frank and some of the water sewer commissioners in to just talk a little bit about it and maybe see what other project requests shake out in the interim.
Sure.
And Mike, I'm sorry, can you say again, what is the total potential grant money available?
From the county, it's over 3 million, and our ARPA money is 2 million.
So that first request would actually exceed the available funds?
No, it's 2.9.
Okay, so we have 2.9 allocated to us.
No, what the water and sewer is asking for is 2.9 million. And we have from the county over 3 million.
3 million.
I'll get you the exact numbers tomorrow.
Okay.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Renee, I think we have somewhere in the range of $5 million total through the American Rescue Plan, $3 million through Bristol County, $2 million direct to the town. And these two requests would be going through Bristol County.
Correct.
Okay.
Cool. So we will push that for further discussion with the Water Sewer Board. So thank you all for that. Moving on, discussion and/or vote to approve the regulatory agreement regarding the 40B project located at 195 Mansfield Avenue, known as Norton Crossing.
So this is the agreement for the 40B project at Mansfield Ave. This is similar to what we did with 274 East Main Street. And this agreement between us and the developer and DHCD, it establishes a use restriction on the property so that 25% of the units will remain affordable. And there are affirmative fair marketing requirements, the construction obligations that the project has to be built according to the plans and specifications that were approved by the town. And then restrictions, if a tenant who's in one of the units, if their income goes above the 140% of the maximum income permitted, then they'd no longer be eligible for reduced rent. And so then the next open unit would have to be rented as affordable. And the rents can increase on the affordable units based on the AMI, and if the town and DHC agree on that.
Mike, where is this? I'm trying to picture it.
This is on Mansfield Ave, right next to McDonald's.
Behind McDonald's. Like that first presentation may have been before you joined the board.
This will be 101 units.
So not in the plaza, right? Like
No,
where would
just beyond McDonald's on the same side.
It's where their oil, there's an oil company up front right now. They got a board
Okay,
and it's
all right.
behind that.
Okay. Didn't even know there was property there.
Yep, that's where the oil company is, and it's next to the Great Woods Marketplace.
Okay.
It was actually Meg. I mean, I was impressed by the presentation and their design and what they were planning on doing. Like I think that they did a really good job of utilizing a small space, you know, that abuts the reservoir and allows some additional housing to be available.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks,
So,
Jack.
So right there in between the oil company and McDonald's.
Yeah, so it's like there's a small house in front. I believe, Michael, the oil place is next door. So there's
Yeah,
a
that's what I'm
long
seeing right now.
place right here, 95.
Yeah.
I thought they shared a driveway, Jack. Sorry about that.
They very well might.
Nice.
So well, I'm going to stop sharing because I'm very unhappy. So,
But you were like Johnny on the spot with that. I was impressed.
wow. So
I was losing my connection.
I thought I was losing mine too, but I think it was Jack.
It was.
And Jack, you're no longer on video.
I see Jack.
You see Jack?
Yeah.
I saw him. Now we don't.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on.
Is it like a Where's Waldo? There he is.
There he is.
The board had a lot of difficulties with the address associated.
No, don't bring that up.
That was
I thought of that as soon as I saw it on the agenda.
not our finest moment. Okay, so Mike, for my benefit, this is it sounds a standard agreement for these types of units as mandated by the state.
It is. And Attorney Freeman drafted it, and then Copeland and Page reviewed it. And this is the final draft. And if you do vote, there's one spot to sign. So if you wanted to authorize me to sign it, I could do that for the board.
Okay.
Mike, can we get that September 2nd, 2016 reference out of the footer on this?
Where is that?
On the footer on the
In the
contract.
footer on all the pages,
Oh,
of
yeah.
September
Yeah.
2nd, 2016.
Yep, I'll make sure that.
And so this is, just for clarity, this is not endorsing another 40B project. This is one that has previously come before the board, had received a positive vote from the board, and I believe is working its way through planning and zoning, and conservation probably.
And it has gone through all those boards. Yep.
All right. Any questions on the agreement? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the regulatory agreement regarding the 40B project located at 195 Mansfield Avenue, known as Norton Crossing, and to authorize the town manager to sign on behalf of the select board.
So moved.
Second.
Meg?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
You am yes. Thank you, Mike. Next up.
Jack, if you don't mind, I just have a quick question. Just because this has kind of come up with a couple residents concerned about a lot of trees getting cut down and development happening in the town where, you know, I know that there's so many things to talk about with it. But like what was it, on Newland Street, there's like a whole development going in there. And I know a lot of the residents on like Wilbur and that whole area, they're kind of upset about that because what was forest is now going to be a development. And now I see this, which I do support, you know, putting a 40B, you know, making housing affordable, especially because it's so close to the highway, but it's cutting down a whole section of forest again. So I'm just getting kind of concerned that we're kind of just like plowing down just to make developments. There's nothing, you know, we can really do besides say no to things. But we do need revenue. We do need affordable housing. So I do get it. But I'm just voicing my concern publicly for the trees.
I think very fair point. You can be the Lorax. Is the Lorax the one that speaks for the trees?
Yes, sir.
The way you ended that, Christine, I had that same reference.
Yeah, I love that book. That's my favorite Dr. Seuss book. Anyways.
Thank you, Christine. We actually have the opening for the Conservation Commission as a member if you're looking to join us, by the way.
Once I get more people on the Recreation Commission, I will gladly jump over there. Help me help you.
Yeah, John, that's a shameless plug, by the way.
Very smooth. He was just
Johnny on the spot.
John, since you sort of spoke up, I'm going to put you on the spot there. Can you talk a little bit about the reviews that go through, that some of these projects go through to ensure that the natural environment is being respected as these things take place?
Sure, I can definitely touch upon that. Obviously, you know, part of our job as the Conservation Commission is to preserve and, you know, not to allow for development, but also not prohibit it. But at the same time, we would like to, you know, preserve the natural habitat for wildlife, natural serenity. You know, it's all comes into a factor. But as you know, part of the process is that someone's going to buy land, and they have intent with that land to either develop it or preserve it. And you know, we do have people that do donate parcels of land. There are certain individuals that are looking to preserve land. There are certain ways that we can go about that by putting conservation restrictions on pieces of land. I mean, right now we manage over 1,100 acres of land here in town as the Conservation Commission. And, you know, part of that is just trying to figure out certain parcels, certain areas. And that's what I'm working with Mike on, is try to develop a strategy for potential parcels in town that we can try to preserve to offset a lot of this potential development that we see in front of us.
And John, are there opportunities for us to increase potentially like our own local requirements for open space?
Yeah, most certainly. There definitely are opportunities for us. I think part of it is to actually try to get the public involved and knowing exactly what parcels maybe kind of give more public awareness and try to promote that. I mean, we're actually looking to have an Earth Day event at Edith Reed this upcoming April 23rd. We're going to get the word out for the public. So we're going to try to promote green initiatives and also green infrastructure. So that's one of the things that we're looking to do, and potentially try to nurture young folks to kind of try to get into the environment and also be those type of people that want to preserve and protect the land.
Is that the same date that we have scheduled the Norton cleanup?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe
John,
there are
what time
ways
are you
that we
guys?
can keep the time separate.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what time are you guys planning for that? Because usually the cleanups, like early morning to about maybe early afternoon, about noon time.
Yeah, we were going to start probably at early afternoon, that around lunchtime.
Mike, did we have a definite time for the cleanup?
We always end before lunchtime, so
Okay.
it's usually 8 to like 11:30.
Yeah, because that could be a good segue into, like people do the town cleanup around their neighborhoods, and if we could somehow work, John, if we could work with you or work with, whoever else is going to be a part of that initiative, and maybe do like a reward after, like people, yay, you cleaned up your neighborhood, and now let's all meet at Edith Reed and see what more we can do for the town, and kind of like digest everything, I guess.
Have a transitional grill, like grilling event for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Sounds like a great opportunity. I look forward to discussing this in more detail so that we can kind of finalize some sort of collaborative effort.
We can cook hot dogs over the trees that we pile up to start a fire. Oh,
I don't think Smokey the Bear at Edith Reed would appreciate that.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you too? So if I remember correctly, both of these projects what we approved as a board, because we had, can't remember if the one up by Newland was specifically a zoning, or I just don't remember all the details, but I do remember our role in that. Do we have the ability for potential residential development to put in place conditions where some of the trees are maintained? Because I noticed the same thing. I drove by and I'm like it's just cleared, and I am like completely against developments where you go in and you don't see a tree in sight because they just took them all down. Like, is there some sort of authority that we would have to maintain a certain percentage of trees?
On Newland, that was land that was chapter land, and we had first right of refusal, but it wasn't accepted. We had the first right to purchase the property based on what they had for their purchase and sale, but you voted against that.
Right.
If there's a subdivision, there may be some say you have, but when someone's just doing like they are up there, Form A's, there isn't much say unless there's wetlands involved and they're in the buffer zone. There might be some say by conservation, but other than that, there really isn't.
Is there a potential for a bylaw change for that?
That is something that would have to be done. I don't know how you would do it, what it would say, but that's the only way you could enforce something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And so, John, you mentioned that you have an opening on the Conservation Commission. So if someone out there in TV land is interested in joining, how might they go about doing so?
They can contact me at the Conservation Office on our website, or they can call us at 508-285-0275.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to item number 7.
Jack, before we move on, I think Mike had asked about us voting to provide him with signature authority for this.
We did that.
We included signature authority in that vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I completely missed it.
All right. third time, I'm going to try to move on to the next item. Discussion and or vote on the process of how to issue available liquor licenses.
So I don't have anything to present to you. I know that we had talked about this briefly and maybe we should work on something. The question, came up, what do we do if we have an additional liquor license? We have people that submit letters every year, current people that have beer and wine, for example, and say, if a license comes available, I'd like an all alcohol. And then you have other people that may apply. We should really explore, if it does come up in the future, what parameters are you going to look at? How are you going to decide, who gets a liquor license? And we could actually have this on another agenda and have Greg Corbo from KP on to discuss different options that you might have.
I think that would be helpful. I think too, we should consider the process that we utilize for the marijuana retailers, right? And leverage the EDC in that process to do a review of, similarly, right? We open it up for applications for a certain amount of time. The EDC does a review based on various criteria and then provides the board with a recommendation for its consideration, recommendation or multiple, right? I think for the marijuana retailers, we had 5 in front of us for 2 licenses. So that's a suggestion to utilize an existing board.
And if anyone else has suggestions, just email me so I can put something together for the meeting with different ideas that you had, and we'll have Greg on and talk about it.
I personally think it would be very beneficial to have a process formally outlined before any additional licenses come on board, so that anybody understands what that process is, so that there's not any perceived gamesmanship as things move forward. So yeah, I think let's get the individual from KP Law in to talk about that, and I think Renee's suggestion about leveraging the EDC for that purpose makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Jack, what we can do is we had a document outlining the marijuana retailer subcommittee. So what I'll ask the team to do is to modify that for purposes of a liquor license, and then we'll at least have something tangible in front of us on an outline process.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think both your and Renee's point are excellent. I think there should be a process. I think EDC is absolutely where it should land. I mean, EDC as a whole did a great job with the marijuana licenses. The one thing that I would say is, I know we've talked about moving forward with liquor license and trying to petition the state and so forth. I know that we've been told by the State Economic Development Commission, any license that we try to apply for additionally on top of that legislative license, I should say, it has to be very site specific and usually customer specific. So I don't know how that plays in that, but I just wanted to get that out there. So when we're thinking about these processes, there may be 2 processes. One, if we do get over to the 20,000 population, where we get another license, and then a legislative license.
That's interesting point, Michael. I don't recall hearing that it was customer specific. Remember, there was a lot of discussion about the potential locations that these licenses could be utilized at. Some of them were very specific, and then some of them were more general area of a street.
So the advice we got way back at the beginning of this was, when you apply for legislative license, it was very site specific, and then you had almost had a customer identified to go for that license. I could be misspeaking here and out of term, but it was customer specific. That's why some of the stuff that we were moving forward with, I was very confused by. And I know that if on my off base when we were told that at the beginning.
No, I think you're speaking correctly about the political process in at the State House. And Jen was just reminding me that, we do have a retail package wine and malt license available now. So this could come into play for that, because she has received some inquiries about that license. This was Pinecrest that was at Great Woods, and they never renewed it this year. So that license is available.
And you said there is interest for that?
Yes. Jen said she's been receiving people that are interested in it.
It's good news. That license was sat vacant for almost 4 years when Swirling Vine closed. After Swirling Vine closed and Pinecrest took it over, it sat vacant for about 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know where people are right now. I couldn't tell you what location people are interested in, but she has received interest from people in that license.
I see that Attorney Waluka has put their hand up. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me a law license. I'm not an attorney.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm just a planner. To your comment about being site specific, I just went through this process in Plainville, the one that we had initiated and that I failed to bring up at your last town meeting. And the legislature is very specific. They want to make sure, as someone had mentioned earlier, that this isn't being gamed, so that someone with a special interest doesn't get that license. So the license, I went through this last year, had to be, if not address specific, site specific. This intersection or this area as I had drafted, and then they wanted to know who was going to get the license. Just to make sure it wasn't, a select person's sister-in-law or something. I don't know how much leeway there is in that, but that was my experience this past year. Thank you. And we do have an interest once again in trying to revive the possibility of getting an additional license at Blue Star. My people remain interested. Condon remains interested, and I know that it had been targeted before we approached the town, and would do whatever we could to help you come to a decision to apply for an additional license or licenses, and have that location be one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luca. I hereby rescind your law license. So I can. Okay, so yeah, let's get KP Law in to talk through this. We'll get some insight on that. And yes, we have talked about putting this on the Springtown meeting. So,
did we already do that? Did we already put it on the warrant?
I don't believe we've added it to it. I think we've expressed an openness to do that and do it as the select board rather than as a petitioner article, so that we have the ability to adjust and revise the language as we learn more.
Yeah, and Mike, when's the warrant close?
March 7th.
Okay, so we should put this on as a next agenda item just to vote to put it on the warrant, and then we can talk the language beyond that.
Right. Excellent. So that brings us to any other topics not reasonably anticipated. I am not aware of any.
Jack, I do have one, if I may. I was notified today from a member of the EDC of a resignation. And we have an individual who is willing to step into the permanent role, who's now filling it's not a temporary role.
Associate?
Alternate,
thank you. I knew it was an A, I just couldn't figure it out. So if the board would be amenable to discussing that, to not only accept the resignation, but then appoint the alternate to the open position.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to it. I think it makes sense to me to consider that.
Okay, so just for more information, Sharon Rice, who is currently on the board, had reached out to me today to resign. So, certainly I think it's, in our interest to accept a resignation. And then Cody Thompson is currently filling the alternate role. We do have an additional alternate role available. So from perspective of others who would be interested in joining beyond this, we would put him in a permanent position, and then we would have the 2 alternates available.
Okay.
Okay. I can push the motion, or I can move it. Okay. So I move for the select board to accept the resignation of Sharon Rice from the Economic Development Commission, and also appoint Cody Thompson as a permanent member of the Economic Development Commission.
So I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Meg?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
I too am a yes. Excellent.
Thank you.
Anything else? Once, twice. Moving on. Old business. We're back with our friends Exit 10 LLC to review, discuss, and or vote to amend their host community agreement. So Renee, I believe you remain in the hot seat.
I'm going to shift that hot seat over to Alex, who I see has just turned on his video.
All right, well,
how's everyone doing? Appreciate you taking the time. As we presented last time, we were looking to add Meramed to our corporate minutes and have them as partners with us on the retail dispensary at 407-411 Old Colony Road. We submitted an amendment to the HCA, I believe it was yesterday, basically signifying that Meramed would take on roughly 9% of Exit 10 LLC, and my remaining shares would then shift to Lindsay, my wife, and I would be primarily an operator and focus more on the development of the site. And Meramed would come in with a heavy focus on operations. Ryan Crandall's also on the phone or on the Zoom from Meramed. And then we would continue the pace at which we're going, which is that the site is currently being appraised and environmentals are being done as we speak. So that process is ongoing. And this is obviously, as we presented last week, I think in the best interest of us moving forward very quickly and efficiently.
And Alex, can you remind the board the structure right now is you have 50% or 49% ownership, and your wife has 51%?
Correct. There's some, just for full transparency, there's some preference from the bank as far as ownership on the land versus the operating company. That's why there's a shift in my shares more to my wife versus all 3 of us being on it. So that shift will basically make her the majority at 91%, and then Meramed at the 9%.
Okay.
And you would be the property owner?
Yes. And we're in that process is ongoing just with the environmentals, as if you're familiar with the site with the mechanic portion on. We're in phase 2 portion of the environmentals, which should finish up in the next 3 weeks here.
Is there, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Of course.
Is there any chance, obviously this shift in ownership might favor the financing portions and so forth that you might be going through. Is there any chance of those being threatened at all or losing going forward?
No, appraisal and stuff came through. Everything is lining up exactly as it's supposed to. So it's just more of a preference from the bank, and with lending in cannabis, it's very,
it's fickle.
It's fickle. Exactly. It's fickle. So I'm trying to align their interests with ours to make it as clean as possible and make sure that there's no hair on it. I'm sure you guys are getting sick of me at this point too, so I don't want to come back and have more issues.
You seem to keep getting green lighted, and then all of a sudden it's like yellow, red. So,
I know. I heard the Condom thing and I cringed on the last one. So I swear I'm trying here.
but you have a high level of confidence that you'll be able to finish financing the project with this change.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Jack, just one question, and Alex, I apologize because I saw your email come through with the update that I had requested to be presented to the board, and Mike had responded. But one question, it's the title is the third amendment to the host community agreement, but then the first line says the second amendment to the host community agreement.
Sorry, I'll definitely adjust that. And I didn't know if you want a signature from Maramed as well. I was just waiting to hear back in that regard. I know that Mike had mentioned it on the email. I'm happy to, as soon as there's a vote, I'm happy to make any adjustments or have the lawyer make any adjustments that are needed.
Yeah, Mike, that is the preference, right? That both owners sign?
Yes, I would have both of them sign.
Sure.
Okay. Motion. Michael?
One last. And is there going to be any delay from approval of Maramed regarding from the Cannabis Commission?
No, I actually think that'll help expedite it. Obviously, with the majority of the shares still staying woman-owned, and then Maramed having other dispensaries and being a multi-state operator, and Ryan, you may be able to talk to this, but they have obviously tremendous relationships with the state, having grow facilities, wholesale contracts, and obviously other retail locations that they've already gone through the process with. So they have connections, but they have a cleaner line of sight than I might on my own.
The additional thing that may need to be updated in the host community agreement, Mike, your advice on this, we do state, we reference the November 18th initial HBA, but you put it for the address at 407 to 411 Old Colony Road. I think that we need to have another whereas paragraph that references the amendment where we changed the address from exit.
Okay.
Yep. Mike, does that seem correct?
Yes.
So Renee, you're talking about taking where it says the facility, just kind of bopping that down and putting into a whereas?
I think originally the amendment referenced the original location at Blue Star.
Okay.
And that's what the HCA references. And then a second amendment changed it. And I think what you're saying, Renee, is reference the original and then put a whereas as far as the second amendment.
To reference the amendment. Yeah.
That makes sense. Instead of just doing the new address.
Got it.
That works. Any other questions for Alex or Ryan? All right.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to try to get this right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the third amendment to Exit 10 LLC's host community agreement with the modifications as discussed, notably changing the first line, the second amendment to the third amendment, and adding an additional whereas line to track the change in address, and adding Maramed as a signature line.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Meg?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Nickel?
Aye.
I too am a yes. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Hey, Lindsay, I think you got a good deal here. 9% ownership for $1.
I think so too.
I think you did all right in that deal.
You got the deal right here, Mike.
Yeah.
This is the deal.
Like I said, the dollar's the better deal. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Have a nice night.
Thank you. Going back to old business, we have the discussion on the Department of Public Works. Michael.
Yes, Jack, I've lost track of what I presented to the group and what I haven't presented to the group. So I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint just real quickly, and if I've already presented it, I will stop and move on. And hold on 1 second, if that's okay. Sorry. It's weird, I don't see. Oh, no wonder why.
Is there anything on this in our packet?
I don't.
I'm not sure. What I will do is I'll be glad to forward it to the group. It's the basic slides that we had talked about, but I put it into a presentation format, talking about the proposed, the overview of combining both the water department and the highway department into an umbrella of a public works department. If it's okay, I'm going to just kind of jump ahead here a little bit. This is the current organization chart. And then we, have you guys seen this presentation already?
It looks a little different, but you did review something with us.
Okay, all right. I know I was doing it on just a Word doc, and now I created a PowerPoint. And this is what I would be proposing is still an appointed water and sewer commission. Change it from an elected to an appointed water and sewer commission. They still would be working with the water and sewer superintendent. One of the things that came out of the meeting is what responsibilities would change. And one of the things that we saw is nothing would change. They would still working on project approval for the water and sewer commission. They still would be reviewing bill payments, rate changes, betterments, management enterprise through the town process. So they would the enterprise account through the town. So they'd be managing the financials on that end. The responsibilities that would be changing, we wouldn't see any changes, and that was one of their biggest concerns. But the reason say, well, then why would you change it from an appointed to an elected? You can't have two elected boards in that manner serving underneath there. Within one umbrella underneath an engineer. The research that I've started to do is currently these are the boards that would be very similar to it: Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, all appointed by the Select Board, and are not really, the Select Board isn't dictating their activities or their goals. Requires both changing both the charter and so basically it's both the bylaws and the charter. So it would be approval of the town meeting and town election. One of the things that before I jump in all frequently asked questions is how many towns, and that's one of the things that I've been doing, and I can get an update. And I haven't updated this PowerPoint. Is going through the list of towns I have and the format that they have. And right now, from one of the 100 non-cities that within Plymouth, within Bristol, Plymouth, Norfolk, and Middlesex, I have found almost 85% of them have their public works departments with water, sewer, and the highway. One of the things that we see is a lot of, the parks and recs, the park and recs is in there. They're basically maintaining parks in there. Right. Currently, cemetery falls under the highway department per se as well, but it's more defined. We just see that it's kind of what my goal is, to see the extended services. I'm going to jump to some of the frequently asked questions. Would this change the role of the Water and Sewer Commission? No, the Water and Sewer Commission responsibilities would not change. Just how they would be on a board. One of the things that I pointed out, the Water and Sewer since 2011 has not had a consistent elected position since 2011. It's always been appointed and then reelected within the three commissioners' terms. So no commissioner has served all 3 years of their term without having to reappoint something. Some of those were repeated people appointments, but we've seen that inconsistency. So we hope that the appointment process would be very, very similar. And so I will add the town breakdown of there. One of the things that I want to do, and I'm going to move on from here, is I'll add that to this presentation, but our next meeting is at the end of this month. I would like to maybe move to ask, I'll send the presentation that will be updated with you to my final meetings. And then I would like to present this to the Select Board to put onto the warrant if we would vote on that. Any other questions? Like I said, I know I'm flying through it right now because I know it's late and we still have a lot to do. And we can talk about it in more detail. Is there anything that you'd want to see in the presentation that or items that I haven't thought of or so forth to present to you or the board?
Can you just go over again what you said about Parks and Rec?
It's not what you think is there are some towns that have parks and recs underneath the Department of Public Works. But it's not the way that you think of it as we call parks and recs. It's more of a maintenance parks and recs.
It's more like the cleanup crew and stuff like that.
It isn't a programming park and rec.
Yeah, and that's usually more for like larger cities that have that under the public works or larger towns. But okay, no, I just wanted to make sure I heard that clearly. It
is larger towns, but there are some actually within. It's kind of weird that I can try to pull those out. There were some that on my research that showed that they actually had some of the sports programs under the Department of Public Works. It's really a unique. I'll try to pull those towns out. I didn't really star it too much because I just kind of moved on because it was a normal thing. But it was one of the things that I found is this is a very unique process. But one of the consistents was the equivalent of our highway department and the water and sewer department were under this umbrella, and the majority of them had engineers. Either they had their own separate engineering department, or they had that as an engineer as a supervisor.
Thank you.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah, Renee.
On that last page that you had showing up there, I think it was the FAQs. On the last question, I would just recommend adding a bit more to that because, specific to saving money, like it's, I don't know that's inferred by what you have, that when you have this additional role and they're looking at the project and they're actually managing the project versus us paying an outsourced provider for that, like that specifically is a cost savings. And I would use the recent project where I think if we had a little bit more oversight for that West Main sewer project, right? I think if we had more direct oversight within the town, we probably could have identified some of the potential issues earlier and saved a significant amount of money. So I would just recommend beefing that up a bit.
Yeah, no, I think that was, one of the things that as I started doing this project was really kind of hitting home on the message was, this is different than previous proposals where we've talked with like more of an attack on the Water and Sewer Commission. This is not that. This is a job. Like that's why I think it's very important. It's one of the messages that I served with the Water and Sewer Commission, that it really was, our goal was not to have them disappear. We want them to stay there. They need the water department. There are a lot of decisions that the water department needs that board for. But we wanted to bring stability to it by the appointment process. But we also, to your point, see an engineer that might be able to help them and give them guidance beyond just hiring. Sampson Weston does a good job, but they represent a firm. Okay, it'd be great to have someone, like you said, to your point, overseeing these projects. So, is there anything else, guys, that just real quickly that you'd want to see on this that that I haven't touched on? I know that it's one of those sporadic type things. Renee, to your point, I had spoken to Cindy Allahead quickly about this, and Kevin Schleicher, and also Keith has been on this project since day one regarding the previous charter. But I recognize that Keith's the highway department as well as obviously being part of the charter. Anything else, or is the board comfortable maybe on the next meeting bringing this up as on a situation where we could say kind of vote on it to move forward, and I'll make the changes that I talked about, listing the towns. I try to list the towns where water and the equivalent of the highway and the water sewer are in there, and list those on there. There's so many combinations. I can't list 100 towns and what each one has, but I can try to do the best I can in the representation in the slide.
Michael, I think we should definitely put this on next meeting's agenda to make sure that there's at least placeholders on the warrant for this. I think it's going to be beneficial to see some of the draft language that goes into the bylaws and the charter. For that, that gives us the ability to refine that over time and make sure it's getting reviewed with KP Law, because the devil's going to be in the details, right? So you're going to be creating positions and moving things over. Conceptually, I'm fully on board with this. I think this is a smart move for the town with a lot of good benefits.
Yeah, one of the things that I talked with the Mansfield, the gentleman who did establish the Public Works Department in Mansfield, this isn't a, hey, it passes, we turn on the lights and the transition happens. We recognize that this is probably going to take almost a year for the transition to truly happen. The other thing is, Jack, KP Law has done the first pass on that. And what I'll send to you is what the current article says, what the new article says, or no article, and this is the addition. So I've done it basically, I've written it so the language of it, basically, I can present what we're going to propose to town meeting, but I can also present this is what it says, this is what was changed, or this is what was deleted, so forth. Because obviously you look at it, you're like, well, what is it's one of those things, there's so much here when we're changing. That's like, well, what did the original say? Right? And that I can see how it can get overwhelming in that. And those are the little things that I think it's important for town meeting that we talk it through, because obviously we can make changes to make it easier for residents to understand the changes that we want to make. That will be helpful in getting this passed.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for the present. And what I will do is I will send you the articles as well as the updated presentation before the next meeting.
And we're only, at this point, we can only vote to support it on the warrant, right? Like we can't.
We can do a placeholder. We can do a placeholder, and then we can, once it's on the placeholder, we could do a vote on the placeholder now, I guess, and then we could do it the next meeting as a work, or as just kind of hey, we want to tighten it up between the 90 days between the warrant and then the meeting.
Yeah, I prefer to hold off on voting, if only because it just says discussion of department. I know we can vote on anything.
Jack, is it all right if I ask the question? Is there, what I've presented, does the board feel, right? If the board itself is like, yeah, I'm good, I might as well, I don't want to put a ton of work into it. The board's like, I know that we've kind of said, yeah, I get the sense the board is in favor of moving forward on this without an official vote. Does the stomach have just to keep moving forward and pushing forward on this project?
In my opinion, Michael, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't support putting this on as an article for the warrant.
Right, yeah, without obviously the official signal and results.
Yeah, I agree.
We have time to review it, right? Like the deadline is that we make sure it's on the warrant, and then it closes, and then we have time to actually modify it, right? And then we would vote on it prior to needing to post the warrant.
Right. All right. Okay, then I will. What I will do is next meeting I'll make the changes that we spoke about, and I will actually have the wording prior to the next meeting. I'll send you presentation as well as the wording, and then the next meeting I will also present the wording to the board.
All right. Sounds good, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. If I'm reading correctly, that brings us to town manager's report, which looks blank on our agenda. Mike, anything to share with it?
He already did it, Jack.
He's muted. He's telling you silently that we completed this already.
Oh.
Yeah. I was going to tell you that we did this already.
All right. Well, fine and dandy. Thanks, Mike. Then we're on to, did you guys already do select board report and mail?
That's a better question. No.
Anything for folks to bring up or share tonight, Michael?
Jack, I just say I got an email and a phone call regarding some problems over at Home Foods regarding the lights that were off in the front. I did bring it to the town manager's attention. And Mike, do you have an update on that? Because I know there were some lights that were agreed to be shut off, but I know they're back on now. So I brought it to town manager's attention, so I wanted to see if we had an update on that.
Yeah, I did talk to Home Market Foods, and they had turned the lights on because all the street lights out front went out. And so they just notified me of that, and we contacted our contractor. For some reason, there's like 5 or 6 street lights that have gone out on that street. So we're going to go out and get that corrected. And Home Market Foods said that someone had fell in the parking lot because it was so dark there that they had to put the lights back on until the street lights come on. And once those street lights are on, they'll shut those lights back off.
So, Mr. Chairman, Matt. So Mike, let me ask you this: has this been a problem we've seen with the new streetlights as a whole? I mean, I know that we seen any other problems in any other areas regarding the streetlights burning out, or is this just an abnormal situation?
No, it's abnormal. There must have been a circuit that went somewhere down there that they'll have to check into.
Okay. All right, and then regarding this, how long do you think that it will remedy? Because these residents were obviously pretty disturbed about the streetlights and so forth, and was asking to possibly have another meeting with the new operations person.
So I would think, well, they'll be out there as soon as they can, as soon as, I'm not sure what the wind's going to be like tomorrow, obviously. But I would expect that they'd be out there by the beginning of next week at the latest.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Anything else from the board? All righty. Seeing none. We're into warrants. So I have recently approved payroll warrant PR 22-17 for the week ended February 5, 2022, and warrant dated February 10, 2022, in the amount of $1,516,652.81, as well as invoice warrants AP 22-33 dated February 10th, 2022, in the amount of $549,875.16, and invoice warrant AP 22-34 dated February 17th, 2022, in the amount of $108,402.20. Our next meeting is March 2nd, which I believe we can resume in a hybrid or in-person format as individual members decide. Mike, can you make sure that the library community room is available for us for that night? All right. Is there any other business to come before the board this evening before we move to our executive session? Seeing none, I'm going to pull up my language here. I declare under General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21, little a3, that the purposes of the executive session will be to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, i.e. Bell and Music, and to discuss litigation with respect to property located at 20 Commerce Way, Norton, Mass. 02766, because the discussion of the strategies in open session could compromise the purposes of the executive session, and with the board to not return to open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
Michael, you're muted.
Hi, Renee. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move that the board go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A3, for the purposes and reasons declared by the chair and with the board not to return to open session thereafter.
Second.
Okay, so roll call vote to go in. Meg,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
you, Amy, yes. So, with that, we will move to executive session. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Stay warm and good luck with the rain tomorrow, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Good night, everyone.